Good day guys! Welcome to my vlog. My name is Michelle Grace Acedo from ABM Grade 11-9. Before I begin to tackle about our today's topic, let me ask you first to describe the following pictures in only one word for 8 seconds. Timer starts now. Let's now see if your answer is correct. If your answer is buying, then you got it right. Buying, it is the acquisition of an object in exchange of money. Meaning to say, it is a term used to describe the purchase or acquisition of an item or service that is paid for via an exchange of money or another asset. Buyers assign a monetary value to the product or service they're looking to buy, which can be at a premium or discount to its original value. Let me ask you again to describe the following pictures in only one word for 8 seconds. Timer starts now. Let's now see if your answer is correct. If your answer is selling, then you got it right. Selling, it is acquiring money in exchange of relinquishing all claims of ownership from an object. Meaning to say, selling is a transaction where a good or service is being exchanged for money. It also refers to the process of persuading a person or organization to buy something. And if you are selling a product or service, you need to focus your selling efforts on communicating the benefits to the buyer. Moving on, for today's video, our topic is all about buying and selling, specifically mark on, mark up, and mark down. Let's begin. Setting up prices is one important step in business. So why do you think it is an important step in business? Basically, it is important since it defines the value that your product are worth for you to make and for your customers to use. Also, it is a tangible price point to let customers know whether it is worth their time and investment. Before anything else, here are the terms to remember. Selling price. It is defined as the price at which a good or service is sold by the seller to the buyer. So, meaning to say, the selling price of a product or service is the seller's final price, or how much the customer pays for something. The exchange can be for a product or service in a certain quantity, weight, or measure. Cost price. It is a total amount of money that it costs a manufacturer to produce a given product or provide a given service. Meaning to say, a cost price includes all outlays that are required for production, including property costs, materials, power, research and development, testing, worker wages, and anything else that must be paid for. Moving on to the main topic, let's now tackle about the markup. It is the difference between the selling price and the cost price. It is also computed based on the markup percentage. So, here we define markup as the amount added to the original selling price to arrive at a new selling price. And the markup formula is markup amount is equal to selling price minus cost price, or markup amount is equal to markup percent multiplied by cost price. For example, if a trader decides to increase his or her selling price from 120 pesos to 150 pesos, as the new selling price, then the 30 pesos he or she added to the original selling price of 120 pesos is the additional markup. While markup percentage is a percentage of the cost price that the company wanted to add to determine the selling price of the product. Meaning to say, it is a concept commonly used in managerial or cost accounting work and is equal to the difference between the selling price and cost of a good. So the markup percentage formula is markup percent is equal to 100 multiplied by the markup amount over the cost price. Example number 1. How much must be the selling price of a monoblock table with a cost price of 525 pesos if the desired markup percentage is 28%? So the first thing that we have to do is to determine what is given. We are given with the cost price, which is 525 pesos, and the markup percentage, which is 28%. So here we are to find the selling price. So now that we already know what is given and what is missing, let us try to determine what formula do we have to use. And as we can see here, we are given with the cost price as well as the markup percentage. Because of that, we can use the formula markup is equal to the markup percentage multiplied by the cost price. So using this formula, we can now substitute whatever is given. So markup is equal to 0.28 multiplied by 525. By the way guys, take note that instead of using the percentage, I use its decimal equivalent, which is 0.28. So 0.28 multiplied by 525 is equal to 147, and that will be our markup. And using this markup, we can now determine our selling price. So since we know that the markup is given as the markup is equal to selling price minus cost price, we can use this formula to determine the selling price. Let's now substitute whatever is given. So we have here the markup amount, which is 147 is equal to selling price minus the cost price, which is 525. Now, to solve for selling price, we can transpose negative 525 to the other side of the equation. Therefore, we have 147 plus 525 that is equal to the selling price. Then, simplifying this equation, we have gotten the selling price of a monoblock table, which is 672 pesos. Let us proceed to our mark-on. Mark-on, it is a temporary markup on certain products to take advantage of the high demand during peak sales like the weeks prior to Christmas, opening classes, Mother's Day, graduation month, and etc. Mark-on is used to temporarily maximize earnings, and the price is usually returned to its original selling price when the demand for the product is on a normal level. In other words, it is the amount added to cost to arrive at the original selling price, as well as it is the difference between original selling price and the cost. Furthermore, the difference between the markup and the mark-on is that the markup is an additional value to the cost. However, a mark-on is another additional amount to the current selling price because on its high demand. So here are the formula for our mark-on. We have here the mark-on amount is equal to new selling price minus the current selling price, or mark-on amount is equal to mark-on percentage multiplied by the current selling price. Example number 2. A fast-selling item in a department store is currently being sold for 675.35 pesos. Because of high demand for the item, the store decided to apply a mark-on percentage of 22%. Find the new selling price. So we have here the current selling price, which is equal to 675.35, and we have also our mark-on percentage, which is equal to 22%. Here we are asked to find the new selling price. Now, to determine our new selling price, we make use of our formula for the mark-on. And as we all know, mark-on is equal to mark-on percentage multiplied by current selling price. So, substituting all of our given, we have the mark-on is equal to mark-on percentage, which is 0.22 multiplied by the current selling price, which is 675.35. And simplifying this one, we know that the mark-on is equal to 148.14. Now that we already have the mark-on, we can determine the new selling price by using another formula. We have our mark-on is equal to the new selling price minus the current selling price. Let's now substitute what is given. 148.14 is equal to the new selling price minus 675.35, which is the current selling price. And transposing this current selling price to the other side, we have 148.14 plus 675.35 is equal to new selling price. Now simplifying this one, we have 823.93 as the new selling price. Let's now proceed on markdown. It is defined as a reduction in the selling price of the merchandise. The cause of a markdown may be to stimulate the sale of slow-moving products. Some may use markdown to drive competitors out of business. Basically, markdown, from the word itself, it refers to the deduction in the original selling price. For an instance, if the trader reduces his or her original selling price from 120 pesos to 115 pesos, the 5 pesos reduction in selling price is termed markdown. And here are the markdown formulas. Markdown amount is equal to the current selling price minus the new selling price, or markdown amount is equal to the markdown percentage multiplied by the current selling price. Example number 3. How much markdown percentage was applied to a jacket whose previous price of 798 pesos is now sold for 654.36? First of all, we can clearly see that the current selling price here is 798 pesos, while the new selling price is 654.36 pesos. And in this problem, we are going to find the markdown percentage. And now that we already know what is given as well as what is missing, let us try to determine what formula do we have to use. And to determine the markdown percentage, we need to first identify what is a markdown. Our first formula will be markdown is equal to current selling price minus the new selling price. And let's now substitute all of our given. Markdown is equal to 798 minus 654.36. And then, let's simplify it. We have 143.64 as our markdown. Now that we know our markdown, we can already use another markdown formula, which is markdown is equal to markdown percentage multiplied by the current selling price. Let's now substitute all of our given again. So 143.64 is equal to markdown percentage multiplied by 798. Now, in order to isolate the markdown percentage, we have to divide both sides by 798. Then we can now simplify the equation. We have 18% as the markdown percentage. Let's now proceed on the last one. Margin. It is defined as the difference between the selling price and the cost price. Gross margin or profit margin is numerically equal to the markup. Gross margin is based on the selling price of the product rather than its cost price. In other words, gross margin refers as sales minus the cost of goods sold. For an instance, if a profit sells for 200 pesos and costs 140 pesos to manufacture, its gross margin is 60 pesos. Stated as a percent, the margin is 30%. So our formula for the gross margin is gross margin percentage is equal to margin amount over the selling price multiplied by 100. Example number 4, compare the markup percentage and gross margin of a rubber shoes with the cost price of 1,765 and a selling price of 2,153.33. By the way guys, there is a typographical error here that 1,765 pesos is actually 1,765 pesos. And going back, the first thing that we have to do is to write here the markup percentage, and here we have the gross margin in order to compare both of them. And then for us to determine the markup percentage, let's do what we did on example number 1, which is we have to find first the markup value. So we have here markup is equal to the selling price minus the cost. And to determine that, let's substitute it with the given values. So we have here the markup is equal to 2,153.33 minus 1,765. And then let's simplify it. We have now 388.33 as the markup. And because of that, you can now utilize the markup percentage formula, which is the markup percentage is equal to 100 multiplied by the markup amount, which is 388.33 over the cost price, which is 1,765. And then, let us simplify all of these. We have now our markup percentage of 22%. On the other hand, we will now talk about the gross margin. In finding the gross margin, we also need to determine the markup amount. So we already determined a while ago the markup amount, and it is 388.33. And now, the formula for the gross margin percentage that we will use is gross margin percentage is equal to 100 multiplied by the markup amount, which is 388.33. However, it is divided by the selling price, which is 2,153.33. So our gross margin percentage now is equal to 18.03%. And this is the difference between the markup percentage to the gross margin percentage. So guys, I'd like to finish this with an interesting quote from Unknown telling us that mathematics may not teach us to add love or subtract hate, but it gives us hope that every problem has a solution. Thank you all for being here today and taking time to patiently watch and listen. I hope you learned a lot. See you next time.